Hey, what's going on? This is Sports Truth. I'm your host, Jordan Harris. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 quarterbacks in the transfer portal. So we'll be going over a summary of like each quarterback situation, where they might be leaning, what schools they're linked to, where they're taking visits to, all that information. And then I'll give a prediction on each quarterback, talking about where I think they will end up going. All right, so let's start the video off talking about Aiden Charles. So he's transferring from Oregon State. He's a freshman. He just finished his freshman year, and his hometown is Downey, California. So I like talking about where people are from because a lot of times it can give you an indication on where they'll be looking. So if they're from California, maybe they'll be considering USC as a favorite. If they're from somewhere in Florida, maybe they'll consider Miami or Florida State a favorite. So that's why I want to put that on there, their hometowns. I think that's important. So Aiden Childs, his high school rating was a 96. He was a four-star. And then his transfer rating, they give different ratings on that. So they give a rating based on when they were coming out of high school, and then they give their current value as far as where they are right now. And his current rating or his transfer rating is a 96, which is a four-star rating. Okay, so he played 9 games this past season. He passed 24 times. He completed 24 passes, 35 attempts for a total of 309 yards last year. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. So he is a dual threat quarterback. He has exceptional accuracy when he's throwing the ball, but he also can run. He uses his legs quite a bit. This past year was real weird for Aiden Childs, though, because he was behind DJ. Please don't make me say his last name. Uyunglele, or I can't pronounce it, but he was behind him, and Aiden Childs would come in and play. He played 9 games, but he would only have like 3 or 4, maybe 5 passes the entire game, and then he may run it 2 or 3 times. Super weird season. Seems like it would be a year that you'd want a red shirt since he hardly ever played. He only threw the ball 35 times. So kind of a weird season for him. You would think he has to consider that as a wasted year. That's just my thought on it. But where is he leaning? Let's talk about who he's looking at. Like right now, the only school that he's seriously considering, or the only thing that's being let out of the bag right now, is Michigan State. A lot of these quarterbacks have been holding their decision, or holding their options real close to the vest, not telling anybody where they're really thinking about going. And he's one of them. So he's been real tight-lipped about what schools he's considering. The only school that's being talked about right now or linked to Aiden Childs is Michigan State, mainly because Oregon State's coach ended up leaving Oregon State, going to Michigan State. So they figure that Aiden Childs would most likely just follow his coach to Michigan State. He does have an official visit scheduled to go there, and my guess is that he will most likely end up at Michigan State. I don't see why anybody would think anything else, to be honest with you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next quarterback, which is Dante Moore. He's transferring from UCLA. He was a freshman, just finished his freshman year, hometown of Detroit, Michigan. So out of high school, he had a perfect 100 rating, 5-star quarterback. Like Manning, Arch Manning came out, and people were really people had him just super highly touted. Manning. Obviously, he's Peyton Manning's nephew. He's Eli Manning's nephew. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, the name Manning is going to hold a whole lot of water. But there are a lot of people out there who are saying that this Dante Moore kid is actually better. He was better coming out of high school than Manning was. So high school, perfect 100 score, which is crazy. Transfer rating has dropped to 95. So he's a 4-star transfer. He played in 9 games last year, had 114 completions, threw the ball 213 times for a total of 1,610 yards. Now, he had 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and I'm thinking that touchdown to interception ratio is probably why he dropped from that 5-star to the 4-star rating. That's my guess. But let's talk about the schools that he's considering right now. He did put out, there was not a statement, but there was an announcement made, I think a couple of days ago, that said he was considering 4 schools. The first school was, and these are in no particular order. It's not like he's considering one. The first school I named, and then it's not more I guess, looked into than the next. Okay, these are all pretty even keel on these. So Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. Those are the four schools that he's considering right now. They've also stated that he has a visit that he's supposed to be scheduling to go to Oregon, do a visit at Oregon. So those are the four. My guess with Dante Moore is that he ends up. This is, I mean, it's kind of tough because he hasn't really said that he's leaning one way or the other, really. But I do know that he mentioned he would like to go to a place. Well, let's say he said that he doesn't have to go to a place where he would be the starter day one. He said that he would like to go somewhere and be developed as a quarterback. There's been a whole lot of talk about Ohio State, not just with Dante Moore, but just like every high level quarterback that's transferring, their name, like every one of them is linked to Ohio State, especially if they're a dual threat quarterback. So I'm thinking that he probably won't end up Ohio State. Michigan looks like a really good option. This is a prediction. I'm going to make a crazy prediction. Some of y'all probably think I'm crazy, but I think he'll end up going to Miami. That's what I think he's going to end up doing. I think he's going to end up going to Miami. It's not just because the helmet is sitting here and I'm a Miami fan. I just really have a feeling that he'll end up going to Miami. And if not Miami, it'll be Oregon. I think it's between those two schools. Even though he's from Michigan, I don't know if Michigan is a good fit because there's a other quarterback that. Well, anyway, let's just say that for later. But I think that if I had to guess, I would probably lean Miami on Dante Moore. But that is a total guess because these four schools are supposedly dead even for him right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next quarterback, which is Cam Ward. He was exceptional this past year. I think he surprised everybody by how well he played. Junior just finished his junior year from Washington State, hometown of West Columbia, Texas. High school rating wasn't rated. Transfer rating, he's a 4-star, 94 right now. Played in 12 games this past year, had 323 completions, and threw the ball 485 times for a total of 3,735 yards. Homeboy was throwing the ball all over the yard. Those are crazy numbers. He had 25 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and he also had 8 rushing touchdowns. So that is incredibly impressive, especially the fact that he's a dual threat quarterback. He's not just sitting in the pocket throwing darts all over the place. He can do that. He's shown the ability to be able to do that, but he also knows how to move around the pocket. He knows how to get outside the pocket and throw on the run. He can do a little bit of everything. I like these kind of stories, especially the people that come from nowhere, like they're not ranked at all, and then you look and you're like, dang, he's putting up some crazy numbers. I love these kind of stories. So let's talk about the schools that he's interested in and that's interested in him. So we've heard Ohio State, we've heard Miami Hurricanes, Oregon, Florida State, Washington, and USC. So far, the word is that he's leaning heavily towards Ohio State. It's supposed to be a pretty heavy favorite right now. He does have, what's been reported is that he has over 10 NIL offers right now on the table over $1 million. So he's got 10 offers that are worth $1 million, which is crazy. He can go and pick any one of these 10 schools and have $1 million in his pocket next year. It's crazy. There are reports that came out earlier today that he's cut the list down to Florida State, Miami, and Washington. I would not believe that, though. Like, this stuff is just so wide open. It's crazy. There's also a report that he's visiting Miami right now. He's supposed to be there. Today is Saturday, December 9th. He's supposed to be there right now is what I was told. So I shouldn't say what I was told. I'm not some kind of insider. You know what I'm saying? This is stuff that I've read and stuff that I've seen, Twitter and all that stuff. So he's supposedly doing a visit with Miami right now, which is pretty curious, but we'll see. So my prediction, I suspect that Cam Ward will end up going to Ohio State. It's a seamless fit. Like, the only thing that Ohio State was missing last year, really, it was the quarterback. Like, the quarterback was, I shouldn't say missing. The quarterback was the weak link on the team. I think if they had Cam Ward playing instead of having Kyle McCord back there. No shade on Kyle McCord, but instead of having him there, I think they would have ended up winning the whole thing because they are stacked. So yeah, I think they'll end up going. I think he'll end up going to Ohio State. Okay, let's talk about Will Howard next. He's just finished his senior year, so he's going to be a transfer after he graduates. Coming from Kansas State, hometown is Downingtown, Pennsylvania. High school rating 88, which is a 3-star, and he's a 4-star rating of transfer, so it's 92 score. Played 12 games, 219 completions, 357 passes for 2,643 yards. Pretty good numbers. And then he also 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and 9 rushing touchdowns. So he's another dual threat quarterback. Low level Tim Tebow. He's not going to just outrun people, but he will run through you. He's more of that type of runner. Heavily linked to Washington. People are saying that they are pretty sure he's going to go to Washington. My guess is that he will end up going to Auburn. And the reason why I say Auburn is because they use a quarterback that's really similar to what Auburn uses quarterbacks really similar to what Kansas State uses their quarterbacks for. So they like dual threat quarterbacks who not only going to run around you, but they can run through you as well. That's just how Auburn's offense has been since Cam Newton and many players before that. So I think he's going to end up going to Auburn. It's just my guess. I don't have any inside information. It's just my guess. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next, which is Riley Leonard. So Riley Leonard is junior from Duke. Hometown is Fairhope, Alabama. High school rating was 3 stars, 86 score. His transfer rating is a 4-star, 92 score. He played 12 games, and these are the numbers from 2022 actually, because this past season he had injuries all over the place. He just didn't play very much. So I want to use his 2022 numbers because that's what's making him the caliber that people are ranking him at right now. So 250 pass completions, 391 attempts, and then 2,967 yards. Really good numbers. And then he had 20 touchdowns throwing, 6 interceptions, and then he had 11 rushing touchdowns. So he's dual threat as well. He does not mind running the ball. He doesn't mind running around you. He's not scared to try to run through you. It's almost looking like it's a done deal between Riley Leonard and Notre Dame. It looks like it's a done deal there. I mean, Texas A&M is trying to sneak in and try to get a visit scheduled. I think they're wasting their time, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure Duke, Notre Dame, they're almost the same school. You know what I'm saying? They're looked at as these prestigious colleges. I think Notre Dame, done deal for him. I don't even think we should really utilize any more time talking about Riley Leonard. Almost a done deal. All right, so let's talk about Brock Vandagriff. So Brock Vandergriff, he just finished his sophomore year from Georgia. He's from Bogart, Georgia. High school rating was a 4-star, 97. Transfer rating is 92, 4-star. He played in 7 games. He was 12 for 18 this year. 165 yards passing, and he had 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Brock has already committed to Kentucky, which is crazy to me that he's got a commitment that fast. It's got to be some behind-the-back dealings with that because Georgia just finished playing. So for him to have a decision made that fast, kind of weird, but whatever. He was the 5th QB coming out of high school in the nation when he was deciding on where he was going to go initially before he picked Georgia. So really highly touted recruit. He just was not able to get that starting job the first couple of years he was there. So instead of competing in Georgia for the starting job, apparently he just wants to go to Kentucky and hope they hand it to him. No shade. I know that sounds like shade, but that's just apparently what he's doing. So God bless Brock Vandagriff on that. All right, let's talk about Dequan Finn. So he has been almost a ghost on the recruiting trail. It's kind of crazy. Like, nobody really has much of any information on him before, I guess it was yesterday or earlier today maybe. But for a while they were saying he was either deciding between Wisconsin or Cincinnati. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But junior, Toledo, he was a MAC Player of the Year. High school rating was 3-star, 88. And then he's a transfer rating of 4-star, 91. 13 games played, 201 out of 317 passes, 2,657 yards, really good numbers, and then 22 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and then he had 7 rushing. So another dual threat quarterback who prefers to run around you, doesn't want to run through you, but he can run around you, and he can throw the ball out of the pocket. He can dance in the pocket. Really exceptional thrower. He updated his list, or a list was published. Let's just say an updated list was published. It did not come directly from him. But supposedly he's considering Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and UCLA. And if you're wondering why those names or why those schools aren't up there, it's because this was updated after I actually created this picture here. So yeah, he's apparently looking at Michigan and Ohio State. Being that he's from Detroit, I think he's going to end up going to Michigan, especially with Michigan's quarterback situation being most likely wide open next year. I think he'll end up going to Michigan. Okay, let's talk about Dillon Gabriel next. He's the 9th. He's the next quarterback listed on here. So Dillon Gabriel committed to Oregon. So that's a done deal. No need to even talk about that too much more. Yeah, he's a done deal. When I made this, he was deciding between Oregon and USC, but he is fully committed. He actually announced that this morning, I believe it was, that he's going to Oregon. And I had a pretty strong inkling that he was going to go there. Senior from Oklahoma, hometown. I don't want to say that city because I'm going to mess that all up, but he was from Hawaii. High school rating 3-star, 86 rating. Transfers 4-star, 91, and then his numbers are nuts. So he was 12 games played, 266 yards or 266 completions, 384 passes, 3,660 yards, and he had 30 touchdowns and 6 interceptions to go along with 12 rushing touchdowns. So he put up some crazy numbers. Super impressive. But yeah, he's going to Oregon, so done deal. Nothing much more to say about that. Let's move on to the next quarterback, which is Kyle McCord. He is kind of getting I think they dragging him through the mud a little bit. Ohio State kicked him to the curb is what it looks like because he just was not good enough, even though he went 11-1, which is tough. He's a junior from Ohio State. Mount Laurel, New Jersey is where he's from. High school rating was a 4-star, 97 rating, and his transfer rating is a 4-star, 91. So he's still highly rated. Played 12 games, 229 completions, 348 passing attempts for 3,170 yards. And then he had 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Homeboy does not run at all, though. He's got, his feet are in concrete. I don't know, he got concrete shoes on or something. He's not going to run hardly ever, but he's pretty exceptional, though, as far as being a game manager. He's considering Miami. He's considering the Huskers right now. I think he's going to end up going and playing for the Huskers. That's my thought. Okay, so the last quarterback on the list is Will Rogers. So he's just finishing his senior year for Mississippi State. Hometown is Brandon, Mississippi. So it seemed like a perfect match from Brandon, Mississippi, going to play for Mississippi State. High school rating is a 3-star. And then he had 86 3-star high school. And then transfer 4-star, 90 rating. 13 passing, 13 games played. He had 386 completions for 566 attempts and then 3,713 yards. Crazy numbers. 34 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and this is from 2022 as well because he had an injury-plagued season and didn't play a whole lot. The only name that's really been out there on Will Rogers is Washington, and that's what I suspect he's going to end up going. So, as always, I do appreciate you watching the video. Please do leave some comments in the section. Let me know what you're thinking about that. If you think I'm totally wrong on some of these predictions. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Thanks for watching the video. God bless. Take care. Peace.